He told me, "Without me, you're nothing." Then he wrapped his arms around me in the JFK VIP lounge. With his wife watching, security standing 2 feet away, and champagne glasses clinking in the background. That was the moment I froze. And I'm 27, a flight attendant based out of New York. Mostly JFK to London, sometimes LAX if the schedule's brutal. My dream isn't wild. Just to pay off my student loans, and maybe upgrade from my $1,800 Astoria studio that smells like someone else's takeout. Reputation is all I have in this industry. In aviation, one rumor spreads faster than turbulence. That's why this still burns. An N? Honestly, I never thought it would start like this. Non-N? He's my base manager. Fancy watch, quiet cologne, talks like every crew lounge is his personal TED Talk. Red flags started small. Once, after a long delay, he offered me an upgrade seat on a deadhead. "This is for your own good." Another time, he pinged me on Slack at 11:55 p.m. "Need a private debrief." When I told him it was too late, his reply was, "You're too sensitive." I brushed it off, convinced it was corporate awkwardness. Spoiler, it wasn't, and that hit me harder than turbulence. NNWE were in the VIP lounge because of a weather hold. Golden lighting, glass walls humming with the sound of grounded jets. The air smelled like citrus cleaner mixed with champagne. I'd just set my crew keycard on the counter, cold plastic against my sweaty palm. He walked over, said he needed just a minute, and before I could step back, his hands were on my shoulders, then tighter, like a hug. Not a friendly pat on the back hug, an intimate claim you hug. Right in front of his wife. NNBE honest. What would you do? NHI's wife didn't scream. She filmed. Phone up, thumb sliding, voice cutting sharper than the piano track in the lounge. Unbelievable. 2 clicks, maybe 3. Security glanced away like they were trained to erase what they'd seen. And me? I stood there, frozen, the imprint of my keycard digging into my palm, his cedar cologne making my throat tight. And that was the moment I knew I was in danger. I wasn't thinking about romance. I wasn't thinking about love. I was thinking about rent due on the 1st, my schedule for the London run, and how one Instagram story could tank my career. People online call it a VIP lounge scandal. But from inside it, it felt like quicksand. Smile wrong, speak wrong, and I'd vanish from the roster. It only got worse from there. NNSCE. I live by habits. I iron my navy blazer in my tiny kitchen while the kettle screams. I bring Tupperware meals because crew dinners are roulette. My keycard always goes in the left pocket so I don't lose it at TSA. Little anchors keep me sane. That night, every anchor screamed danger. The cold keycard, the untouched champagne flute sweating on the table, her camera lens, his words, "Without me, you're nothing." And that was the crack in his mask. I looked at her screen. Red recording bar, captions already building in my head. I caught a server freeze, tray of macarons in hand, then pivot away like nothing happened. My own champagne glass trembled where I'd set it down. I didn't drink it. My hands smelled like sanitizer, not celebration. This wasn't luxury, this was liability. And I swear my stomach dropped right there. Later, when I replayed it in my head, I realized he hadn't hugged me out of affection. He hugged me out of arrogance. Like he thought he could blur the lines between workplace rumor and workplace harassment, and no one would ever question it. Like he thought his watch and his title would erase the witnesses in the room. NNTHAT was the moment I decided to start collecting proof, and I didn't say a word that night. I just picked up my keycard, left the flute untouched, and memorized everything. Symbols became survival tools. Champagne glass, crew keycard, her Instagram story, his toxic words. Each one filed away, a mental folder I'd need later. It only gets messier from here. The fallout hit before my first coffee the next morning. My phone buzzed nonstop. 3 texts in a row from different crew. "Are you okay? Check Insta." "Girl, it's bad." My hands were shaking before I even opened the app. There it was, her Instagram story. Blurry but recognizable. His arms around me, my face half turned, champagne flute on the table. Caption, "So this is loyalty." The audio? Her voice, sharp and loud. Unbelievable. It was louder than the lounge piano had been. Louder than my own heartbeat, and that was the moment I knew this wasn't staying private. NNBY, the time I walked into JFK Crew Lounge, the story had spread like jet fuel. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. Someone stared too long at the vending machine. Another buried their face in their phone. I scanned my keycard and the beep echoed too sharp, like it was calling me out. A senior attendant muttered, "Poor thing." But I couldn't tell if she meant me or the wife. The hum of the soda machine filled the silence. It only got colder from there. Flights don't stop for drama. I was rostered on JFK LHR that same week. In the galley, whispers traveled faster than service carts. One colleague barely met my eyes. Another walked out mid-conversation. And in business class, I caught a couple scrolling the viral post on their iPad. My blurred figure reflected back at me while I poured their champagne. I smiled like nothing was wrong. My hand trembled just enough to clink glass against glass, and that hit me harder than turbulence. Mid-flight, he brushed past me and muttered, "You're too sensitive." Said it like a fact. Said it like a weapon. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. This wasn't forbidden love drama. This wasn't flirtation. It was gaslighting on a plane full of passengers who thought I was a headline. NNTHAT was the moment anger replaced fear. And still, isolation cut deep. On the crew bus, the seat beside me stayed empty. In the hotel van, no one asked me to dinner. At first, I thought it was judgment. Later, I realized it was fear. But back then, the silence felt like exile. My symbol wasn't just the champagne flute or the keycard anymore. It was that empty jump seat. Proof of how disposable I felt. It only dug deeper from there. NNBUTI started saving everything. Her Instagram story, screenshots of comments stacking like turbulence I couldn't escape. Emojis, side eyes, fire, even snake emojis. Proof isn't just paper anymore. Proof is pixels, timestamps, and screen recordings. I made folders. Folders became oxygen masks. If I couldn't control gossip, I could at least control evidence. And that was when survival started looking like strategy. Jess, my friend from the union, found me in the staff cafe after a London rotation. The place smelled like burnt toast and watery coffee. She slid into the chair across from me, voice low. "Send me his messages." I blinked. "You're not crazy," she added. "You're cornered." Her words cut sharper than any gossip. She reached across the table, tapped my phone. "We'll cover you." NNTHAT was the first spark of relief. NNBUT, he didn't stop. At 11:42 p.m. Don't overthink this. It was nothing. At 0:07, "You'll ruin yourself if you push this." Midnight pings. Always. My studio lit up in blue screen glow against chipped walls. I stared at the messages, thumbs hovering over delete. Part of me wanted to vanish it all. Pretend it never happened. Pretend I was just tired. And that's when I realized deleting was exactly what he wanted. NNSO. I saved them instead. Labeled, dated, backed up. Patterns stacked like boarding passes. Without me, you're nothing. This is for your own good. You're too sensitive. He thought repetition would break me. But repetition just built my case. NNTHAT was the moment I saw his cracks. NN because if I folded, this stayed gossip. If I pushed, it became workplace harassment evidence. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't sensitive. I was documenting. And every file I saved was another crack in his mask. It only gets sharper from here. The breaking point didn't come with shouting. It came as a midnight ping. At 12:31 a.m., my phone lit up again. A DM from him. "You're imagining things. Don't be difficult." Attached was a blurry photo from the lounge. His arm clearly around me, cropped to hide his wife, but still undeniable. He thought it proved nothing happened. Instead, it was a time-stamped confession in pixels.nen, and that was the moment I realized I had leverage.nen. My thumb hovered over delete. For an hour I stared at the screen, heart pounding, stomach in knots. Deleting would mean pretending it was nothing. But wasn't that exactly what he wanted? I whispered out loud, "If I delete this, I'm done." My cat meowed from the windowsill like she agreed. So I saved it. Then I saved everything else. The midnight texts, the note on company stationery, screenshots of her Instagram story before it vanished. And that hit me harder than turbulence. Each file felt like an oxygen mask dropping during a decompression. Proof stacking up, champagne flute, crew keycard, screenshots, stories, words. Symbols of a story he thought he controlled, but now I was archiving. I made a folder on Google Drive labeled Flight 001. Not subtle, but it kept me steady. Every ping of the upload bar felt like one step back toward breathing. It only grew from there. Jess came over the next day. Her queen's apartment smelled like reheated pizza, cat hair floating in the air. We sat on her couch, her cat pawing at my keycard lanyard. She scrolled through the messages on my phone, jaw tightening. This isn't flirting. This is workplace harassment. She looked up, eyes steady. If you're ready, we file tomorrow. In NBE honest, would you risk your paycheck? In MY throat went dry. Saying yes meant risking my career. Saying no meant carrying his silence forever. I fiddled with the keycard in my hands, the edges pressing into my skin. What if they fire me? I whispered. Jess shook her head. Then we go nuclear, but you won't be alone. NNTHAT was the moment I felt less alone than I had in weeks. NNTHE next morning in the crew lounge. He cornered me again, not with arms this time, but with words. He leaned close enough that his cedar cologne filled my lungs. Relax, you're too sensitive. People are already laughing at you. My stomach flipped. He leaned even closer. You'll ruin your career if you push this. Without me, you're nothing. His mantra. His poison. And that's when I realized his power came from fear. I didn't respond. I just scanned my keycard and walked away. The beep at the door rang louder than his words. My hands trembled, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was adrenaline. I texted Jess one word. Ready. She replied instantly. Thumbs up. My folder was on its way to the Union server before my next boarding call. NNTHAT was the moment the cat and mouse game ended. Passengers kept whispering. Colleagues still side-eyed me. But whispers don't erase evidence. HR can brush off gossip. They can't ignore midnight DMs and Instagram stories. He thought he was the narrator. He didn't realize I'd kept the script, and that was the moment his mask slipped. NNTWO days later. Jess forwarded me the union's reply. We've received multiple complaints about him. Your file strengthens the case. My jaw dropped. Multiple, not just me. Different women. Different stories. Same patterns. Same. For your own good. Same. Without me, you're nothing. It hit me like a cabin decompression. NNHE hadn't picked me because I was special. He'd picked me because I was available, accessible, disposable. He wasn't in love with me. He was in love with control. That realization made my anger burn hotter than fear ever had. And that was the moment I stopped blaming myself. NNTHE silence from colleagues finally made sense. They weren't avoiding me because I was guilty. They were avoiding me because they were scared. He wasn't my scandal. He was the risk stalking everyone. It only gets louder from here. The counterattack didn't take long. 2 mornings later, HR summoned me. Neutral conference room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Stale coffee smell clinging to the air. The representative smiled too much, a plastic kind of smile, and said, "We've had some concerns about your professionalism." My stomach dropped. He'd moved first. NNTHAT was the moment I knew he was scared. They slid a paper across the table. Typed "need" at the top. Inappropriate closeness in the VIP lounge. No mention of his wife's Instagram story. No mention of midnight DMs. Just me, the problem. My palms stuck to the laminate table, cold sweat dripping down my back. For half a second, I thought they might fire me before I even spoke. And that hit me harder than turbulence. Then I pulled out my phone. I didn't hand it over. I just unlocked the folder, tilted the screen, let the glow do the talking. Screenshots stacked, timestamps glaring. Would you like to see his messages? My voice cracked, but my proof didn't. Or maybe the video his wife posted before she deleted it? And that was the moment the rep's smile cracked. NSHE leaned back in her chair. Her pen stopped tapping. For the first time in weeks, someone in power looked less certain. "We'll need to review this," she said finally. I nodded, tucked the phone away, heart still pounding. Walking out, I wasn't free yet, but I wasn't cornered anymore either. It only got sharper from there. NNBY, the time I reached the crew lounge, Jess had already texted. He's suspended pending review. I read it 3 times before it sank in. The man who swore, "Without me, you're nothing," was officially grounded, his office locked, his nameplate taken down. NNTHAT was the moment his power snapped. NNTHE gossip didn't vanish overnight. Colleagues still whispered. Passengers still side-eyed. But now the whispers weren't about me. They were about him disappearing from the roster. His absence was louder than my presence ever was. The symbol of exile wasn't my empty jump seat anymore. It was his empty chair in the weekly briefing. And that was when I realized I wasn't invisible anymore. NNTHE WhatsApp crew group lit up like fireworks when news spread. Typing bubbles popping on and off. One message, he's finally gone. Another, about time. A senior attendant dropped just a single emoji. No one said my name. They didn't have to. I knew. NNTHAT was the moment I felt seen again. NNHI's wife didn't fade into the background either. She kept posting. A carousel of his texts to someone else. Different woman. Same recycled lines. This is for your own good. You're too sensitive. Without me, you're nothing. Her captions dripped with sarcasm. Apparently he had a script. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. And that's when I knew the scandal had outgrown me. Corporate hates nothing more than a trending liability. Passengers tagged the airline in her posts. Reporters emailed crew for comments. What started as a VIP lounge scandal was now a brand risk. HR moved fast. Faster than they ever moved for us. He was gone. No farewell email, no quiet transfer. Just silence. NNTHAT was the moment I stopped shaking. Later, Jess told me there had been at least 4 other complaints. Different women, same lines, same pattern. My chest tightened. Anger and relief tangled up. I wasn't singled out. I wasn't unlucky. I was just another name on his list. And that list finally caught up to him. And that hit me harder than any layover jet lag. NNHE wasn't unique. He wasn't powerful. He wasn't even clever. He was just repetitive. And repetition leaves trails. Screenshots, stories, witnesses, wives. He built his own trap and handed us the keys. NNTHAT was the moment I knew it was over. NNTHE, man who thought he could hug me in plain sight and gaslight me in private, was now erased from the roster. He wasn't my shadow anymore. He was his own downfall. And it only gets final from here. When the dust finally settled, I was still flying. Same navy blazer, same rolling bag rattling across JFK tiles, same cold crew keycard pressed into my palm at security. But something had shifted. The silence around me wasn't fear anymore. It was respect. People made space, not distance. I was back in the lounge, drinking burnt machine coffee without whispers crawling over my skin. NNTHAT was the moment I realized I'd taken my life back. There wasn't confetti. No dramatic applause at the gate, just steadiness, just normal. The kind of normal that felt like a miracle. On the crew bus, the seat next to me didn't stay empty anymore. Jess slid into it, nudged my arm, unwrapped a stick of peppermint gum. The smell filled the air as she grinned. "Told you we'd cover you." For the first time in weeks, I laughed. A real laugh, not the plastered one I'd worn for passengers. And that hit me harder than champagne ever could. NNTHE symbols stayed. The champagne flute, untouched, sweating on that lounge table. Now a reminder of what I refused to swallow. My crew keycard, proof I still belonged here no matter what, he whispered. The folder of screenshots, my shield when he tried to flip the blame. And the empty chair at meetings, his absence louder than his presence ever was. NNTHAT was the moment the weight lifted. It wasn't clean though. My blurred face still floated in old gossip threads. Some passengers still side-eyed me, maybe thinking I'd invited it. But then one junior attendant pulled me aside, hands shaking, and whispered, "Thank you." He cornered me once too. My chest tightened, but I nodded. Maybe my folder didn't just save me. Maybe it cracked a door for others. And that was when I stopped feeling ashamed. NNHI's wife never spoke to me directly. She didn't need to. Her posts did the talking. Screenshots of his recycled lines, each captioned with dry sarcasm. "This is for your own good. You're too sensitive. Without me, you're nothing." She turned his control tactics into memes, receipts, warnings. Thousands of likes piled up. Whatever his legacy was supposed to be, she burned it down in public. And that's when I knew the story wasn't mine alone anymore. I still ironed my blazer in my cramped kitchen, steam fogging the walls, burnt toast smell mixing with fabric spray. But now, when I walk past the VIP lounge, I don't freeze. I don't taste panic. I just see golden light and glass walls, like any other lounge. And I keep walking, keycard in pocket. Proof in the cloud. Spine straighter than before. Survival feels different when you know you didn't cave. NNTHAT was the moment I finally breathed again. And people online called it a boss romance, a workplace rumor, a VIP lounge scandal. Cute labels for clickbait. But here's the truth. There was no romance. There was only pressure, only silence, only a choice, to sink or to save myself. And I chose to save myself. If that makes me the villain in his story, fine. He's already erased from mine. And that hit me harder than any layover jet lag. NSO, yeah. That's my confession. My boss hugged me in front of his wife in security. He thought he could bury me under silence. Instead, I buried him under proof. I'm still flying, still standing, still telling my own story. That, to me, is the win. Would you risk your career to call out someone powerful? Or would you stay silent?